So first off, how did you come up with the idea to start an app?
So my background in anything before all this, I'm way more of a creative guy. I made clothes, I wrote songs, like that was just my life. That's just what I did. I was farthest thing from tech savvy, all of those things. And so one day a buddy of mine, Adam, he's a great illustrator. And so he was working at a design agency, just getting freelanced out. And we pulled up to go get his check. This was about 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, I'm just sitting in his car. I'm chilling, just waiting for him to come back in. He comes back in. He's hot. He's absolutely livid. He's like punching the steering wheel. I'm like, bro, like, what's up? Like, are you okay? And he tells me that they just said that they weren't going to pay him. And they shorted him like $850, out of his check. And I'm sitting there and I go, hey, well, do you have like a contract with them or anything? And he's like, nah, man, I don't. And I was like, he's like looking through his text messages. Like he's like sifting through to see like where the deal was and whatnot. And I was like, well, why didn't you have a contract? And I swear to you, it was like getting hit by like a lightning bolt in that moment. Because I was like, I've done business like this 100 times. Yeah. I've done so many things where, it was just whatever, handshake and, it's all good until it's not. Yeah. It's worked, so many times where, it kind of reinforces the bad habit because you don't even care. Because you're like, whatever, that's my man's, we're good. We'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, there has to be like a fast way to just create a contract on the fly. Like I know there's a DocuSign, but you got to upload something or, that's if you're buying a house or something like that. It's a little bit of a, thicker process. Mm-hmm. And so I just start looking on the car ride back home from that place. I'm looking in my phone, looking through the app store. Because I'm typing in contract, I'm typing in agreement, I'm doing all these things. So I'm like, there has to be something that does this. And everything is like upload a PDF to sign. My whole point was, there has to be a way to streamline this process. Because the thing about contracts is in general is, you're signing, a contract to be on a sports team. Yeah, it's going to be about this thick, but all that really matters is the terms on there. Yeah. But if I'm asking someone to make a logo for me for $500, it doesn't need to be the same 20-page packet. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All that matters is, what is going to get paid, scope of work, deadline, is there a deposit? Mm-hmm. As long as those things get straightened out, realistically, that's the terms of any binding agreement. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking through it. I can't see anything that is the vision in that moment. I tell Adam, I'm like, bro, like, what if there was an app for this called quiktract? Swear, that was the first thought in my head. I saw the color purple, like all of it. And I just kind of like, I forget, but we just let it be, go home. I go home and I remember like a day later, I call my mom and I'm talking to her and I just tell her the idea, not really thinking about it or anything like that. Just, hey, this is what I was thinking about. She was like, you should see if that domain name is available. Yeah. So that was the first thing I did is I looked, it was completely available. So I was like, oh, okay. So I bought the domain name off GoDaddy for like 99 cents because I was just like, whatever, never going to do anything with this, but it's fine. And then like about 48 hours after that happens, I swear, like it just feels like a movie. Like I just get up out of bed and I immediately see like the process. Like I see how it's supposed to look. I'm like, it has to be done in like 60 seconds. Like you have to be able to create an agreement super fast and streamline it all because what we're at war with is not contract, because you could always get a contract if you want to. You go print something out, it's no big deal. Yeah. The problem is the psychology behind the contract. If you ask your friend to sign a contract for something, could be for anything, it feels heavy-handed. There's almost like an element of distrust attached to that. Mm. If you're just like, hey, man, can you watch my dog for the weekend? Here, sign this contract. You're like, oh, bro, like, you don't trust me. What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? So that was always the first step. I learned how to animate in Photoshop off the University of YouTube, and
it's a graduate.
Oh, 100%, yeah, summa cum laude. And then, and so I do that, stay up all night figuring out like how it looks, and it was, believe me, if I could redo it again, I'd be like, dude, use Adobe XD, like it's gonna be so much faster. Yeah. But that comes with the learning process. And then over months and months of time later, it was one of those things where I just couldn't put down. I have absolutely no resources. I am not in any way, shape, or form qualified to do any of this. I just have an idea that can't leave my head.
Right.
So then from there, I get up with a buddy of mine, Shane, who then has a friend named Nick. Nick went to school with him out at UCLA. He was originally from India. I meet up with them, and Nick, essentially, he starts understanding the vision, and we actually start putting some wireframes and stuff together.
So this is like your friend that had a friend.
Yeah. He starts getting the vision, and we start putting some wireframes together. And I'm just paying him out of pocket. At this point, he's not even a part of the team or anything like that. I just remembered, you want to talk about American prices. I remember he flipped one thing to me. He was like, "Yeah, it's $3,000," and I was just like, for this, like, I was like, I could click 3 things. Like, what are you talking about? And then that's when eventually, we started becoming friends. And I was like, bro, like, let's just do this. Like, let's just really go in on this.
Yeah.
And fast forward from there, I actually, we're starting to get a little more momentum just with the idea. We have no real infrastructure, no real business understanding.
So how many people on the team at this point?
So at this point, there was 3 individuals.
Okay.
So this is before you have the app.
This is before any.
You're just thinking about the idea, building out the idea.
This is like I said. It's there's no resources at this point. It's a guy who knows how to make a wireframe, essentially.
Okay.
And so then from there, so I have an uncle, Lee. I haven't talked to him in a couple years. He was a very, very, very smart guy. And originally, I call him just for some guidance. I'm like, hey, man, like, I have this idea. I'm kind of like over my head. Do you have like a couple hours to just talk to me through this and see how we could kind of, tell me if I have anything here. He's one of those guys who, if essentially he's going to tell you if the idea sucks. And, if it's good, he might just say like, oh, that's good. So that's what I was kind of like leaning into.
Yeah.
And so I end up talking to him about it and just going from there. All while this is going on, Nick goes back to India for a little while. Nick goes back to India, comes back for like Christmas break. He gets stopped at the border. They ask to look at his phone. They look at his phone. They see our conversations about quiktract, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have an entrepreneur visa. You have a student visa."
Oh.
So they don't let him into the country. They send him back to India. So he's in India still.
Wow.
Like I said, yeah. So that's why I said like our tech team is in India.
Oh, he's still there?
Yeah, he's still there right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
From India?
He's from India.
All right. Okay. So you have one of your guys get stopped at the border.
Yeah.
And then the other. So now it's you and your guy.
So it's myself, Nick, and it's Lee at this time.
So
Okay.
2 here, 1 in India.
Yeah. No, so one's to know we're all sporadic. One Ohio. I'm in LA. Nick is in India right now.
All right. So you have the idea first. You reach out to your friends. You explain to them the idea. They like the idea.
Right.
Y'all gonna start working on it. Nick can't come back to America.
Yeah.
He's stuck in India.
Right.
Okay. So from that point, how do you go in towards developing that?
So what happens is and I got to give a huge shout out here to Lee and the eventual partner that we brought on, Russ, as well. So Lee's in his 40s. Russ, I think, is in his 60s now. And the thing and they both have, over 20, 30 years of real business experience.
How do you know these people?
So Lee is my uncle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So like I said, he's my uncle, but it was one of those things where it wasn't like we were always like super close. I initially was just like, hey man, like I have this idea. I would love to run it by you.
Yeah.
Did you call your uncle Lee?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to Lee.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lee.
Absolutely. So we just talk and see what happens. We kind of start realizing that his background is more in line than we would even originally had planned. I mean, he had this one company called CIN, which essentially was they served as the bankruptcy data information for over 17,000 law firms.
So he has a little bit of history in
100%. Like he's made his money, you know? And so that was one of those things where I was like, hey, let's just talk this out. It starts feeling way bigger than me at this point, because at this point he's like, nah, like I want to, let's do this. Like I want to rock. Let's actually get this going.
Yeah.
And then we start from there. And a huge component of this, which was a very big struggle for me, like I'll be flat out honest and transparent about it, is I fly up to Ohio to essentially walk through it all and see if we could make a partnership work. And I sit there and look at this whiteboard that's just full of, so many of the technological hurdles that we have to jump. And, this is way more his space at this time.
So this is Lee's vision board.
This is his board, and I'm looking at it because it's the same schematics that I've put out, but now it's like this is the actualization process of it all. And I sit there and I go, oh my God, this is so much bigger than me, And in that moment, I realized something that was like really painful, which I was like, in order for this vision to go somewhere, I might have to curb some of my ego in order to make this happen. So what I do is I say, you know what? I'm gonna make you the CEO. I'm gonna make you the CEO of this. Like I said, I founded this company. I'm gonna make you the CEO of this company. I'm gonna be the chief brand officer. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stick with what I know how to do.
So, all right. So you start the company, right?
Yeah.
LLC?
No, C Corp.
C Corp. You start a C Corp. You tell your uncle about the idea. Your uncle has a lot more business experience than you do.
Right.
So you just have the idea in your head. Your uncle, he thinks about it. He's like, nah, this can actually do something crazy.
Yeah. He
puts it on a vision board of like, this is, when you see it.
Execution steps.
You realize that his vision for your idea is more advanced than your vision. It
was the here's how of my idea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
Which it built, I mean, like I said, it built out to such a more collaborative place after the fact.
Yeah.
But in that moment, it was so like, oh, I just thought we hire developers and the app comes out. You know what I'm saying?
So that process of saying, you know what, this is my idea, you're going to be the CEO of this. How long did you wrestle with that?
Truth be told, it was, so I fly home from being out there. And I remember I was talking to my mom and I wrestled with it for a little bit, but it was one of those things where, you can't deny it. Like it's such an obvious thing where I'm like, okay, well, as a role player, if you got LeBron essentially being like, yeah, I'll play on your team, but like, you can't be point guard. I want to be point guard.
Yeah.
You kind of got to go, okay, well, do I want to win a championship? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that takes a lot of
humility right there.
It takes a lot of humility to do, because that's like even going on Shark Tank, right? Where it's like your baby that you gave birth to, and you pretty much letting somebody else take it from here. I'll take it from here.
Want 50%.
Like,
well, no. So what happens is so like I said, I very much in that moment, like I'm not gonna lie, like I'm scared. I'm trying to figure everything out.
Did he ask to be CEO, or you just offered that?
No. So what happened was it kind of was like a meet in the middle, where it was like, it was a conclusion that had to get reached on both ends, because it was one of those things where it's like, one, I couldn't have been, because, and this is one thing that I want anyone to take away from this. This is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in my life because of this, is you don't know what you don't know. Is point blank period. There are so many phases of life where you don't know what you don't know. You don't even know the question to ask to get the answer for something down the road. Experience is the biggest thing in the world. Like you guys said, you didn't know what you didn't know about making an app until you made one unsuccessfully. Now you know something.
Well, you know what the thing about it, not to cut you off, but
for sure.
If honestly, if we would have had mentors,
right?
If we would have had somebody in the field, we might have been successful.
100%.
And that's the problem a lot of times, is that we don't have mentorship, right? So we just winging it as we go.
Yeah, we didn't have an Uncle Lee.
For sure. Yeah.
If we had somebody like that, but that's great that you utilize your resource. You have to
utilize.
A wise man utilizes all tools that's available to him.
100%. It's a huge component of this is, and that was one of the things, that was the conversation that we really had when we were like, all right, boom, let's lock in, let's really do this. It was me understanding, I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
You can see further than just me right here, but I know that this idea is so strong, and I feel this so strongly, and I know that my skills will be best served
in this area.
That, it's, like I said, we could say humility, but at the end of the day, like I just truly believe that when you are fortunate enough to be in that mode of creativity where like things are just clicking, it's just almost like a lob at that point. You're just playing ball, and you're just like, okay, like go ahead.
All Eagles put to the side.
Yeah. All right. So you have the business structure in place.
Right.
You establish that Your uncle's the CEO.
Yeah.
You're the chief marketing officer.
I'm chief marketing and chief brand. Yes.
What's the other guy's role?
So then we got Russ Russell, who was another of the older guys who he'd been in business with my uncle for.
His name is Russ Russell.
Russ Russell. we got names on this team, and so he's been in business, over 40 years at this point. He's been, he had been working around with my uncle, I think, for a little over 20.
Okay.
But so these are individuals who know the game very well, and he was the first person to say, is like, look, a lot of the times when you go into a VC situation or down the road, you need some gray hair in the room. Someone with no experience.
VC being
venture capitalist.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but just put this in anything. I think that a great point, to piggyback way on the on your social media stuff that you were saying about how start with what you have. Huge part of making an app is an MVP, minimum viable product. So it's the same thing with making videos where it's you have to make content some way because no one's going to give you all the equipment if they don't have something to go off of. And so that's how app making works is I have to show you the slideshow that then turns into the wireframes. I have to show you the wireframes that then turn into the first version and then build on so on and so forth.
So you build your team out first, right?
Right.
You build your team. Sorry, you start the legal structure. You have the LLC. I'm assuming you copyright the name and all of that.
We're all there, yeah.
You build your team. This is before the tech. This is it's kind of running congruently at this point. Actually, no. So we haven't started building the full product yet. No. So all right, let's talk about that. How do you build the app?
Okay, how much time we got? No. So the thing about it is there's coding languages. There's things these were words I never even knew before I got here, where it's are you building in React Native? Is it Swift? Or what are you using Symfony on the back end? There's so many things there, APIs. There's so many nuances that, once again, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So you're it's trial by fire at this point in time. So you go from there and you establish, your product manager, which is something that when you guys were talking about yours, I was like, oh, they didn't have a product manager, which is, that's the guy who, maybe if you had someone here who had built an app before, who was running point for you guys, who knew okay, these are the tranches, these are the check marks they have to get to. You guys are coding in React Native. Let me see, the GitHub. There was certain components like that where you need to, building an app, the reason a Zuckerberg can create an app in his dorm room is because there's only one of him. There's only one Zuckerberg. There's only one of these people, Steve Jobs needed his partner. All these people, it's so much bigger than just your entity. Mm-hmm. Apps are, in my opinion, every business is a team game. But in my experience, the app one is the most everyone has to lean on each other at all times, because the minute it doesn't happen is the minute you're you're on vacation. I can't get a hold of you. I don't know what's going on. The whole project stalls.
So you have, so the project manager, right? Yeah. Where do you find a project manager?
So, for what we did is we were kind of lucky. So we start building the team out. We got Lee, who's on top of tech, as well as this another guy, Scott. Mm-hmm. Those two individuals, ton of experience within that. So now they're manning the tech side as well as Nick. So those are our three. Those are the three people on the tech part of this. The thing about building an app is the cost never it doesn't stop. So it's not this is how much you paid, and then cool, the app is done. It's there's always you're paying AWS, you're paying for the database, you're paying all these things consistently. So across the board, it's never you paid. Put it this way, you guys put $30,000 into the app,
right?
It goes out. That's great, but that $30,000 is just
to get the app.
It's MVP. That's the MVP. It's minimum viable product. You have to then from there, for the eternity of its existence. You have to pay upkeep. You have to pay to continue that, server costs, all of those things.
So from the $300,000, how do we get funding for that?
So what we did is we thought about this and we said, hey, who would be the most, in general, who would be the most anti-quiktract, right? Attorneys.
That's what, in my mind,
right. Attorneys would probably be the most anti-quiktract simply because, it may be seen as taking from their practice. Yeah. So what we did is we leaned on the past relationships that my partners had built with these really, really like these awesome guys who saw the vision, who were like, hey, this is what we want to do. Yeah. And so we built, like I said, we built from there. We ended up making them shareholders, brought them in, and that's what kicked everything off.
Who are these people? Lawyers?
Yes.
Okay. So you had investors.
Yes.
Relationships from your partners.
Right.
They came in and they invested money into
right.
the product.
They saw the vision.
They got equity.
Right.
Okay. How can do you know any ideas for people that are looking to raise money that may not have?
Oh, 100%. No, 100%. I mean, I think it's before anything else, like the use what you got mentality, will take you further than anything, because if you think that the only way you're going to raise money is by leaning on a relationship or something like that, mm-hmm. then you might miss your moment. You might miss the opportunity. I wish there was a rubric that said, hey, this is exactly how you go raise money. Mm-hmm. One thing that you want to do that I urge over anything else is focus on the idea before you focus on the raise. So focus on creating the best version of your idea, the most realized you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Right. Or if it's a slideshow, it doesn't matter what it is. You have to take it to the absolute limit of what you know how to do. Yeah. And then from there, like I said, I know this sounds cheesy and corny, and I know there's like a here's how to all of this, but at least in my experience and my story, it was just, if you act in a way that has a level of sincerity with this, and you are not afraid to ask questions, and it could be dumb. All right, well, cool. So who do I know in my life that, may do something? Talk to them, build it out from there. Because what I did is all I had was passion attached to this. Yeah. I just said, once again, I can't reiterate this enough. I have no experience in this up to this point. Mm-hmm. All I did was say, this thing won't leave my head. I don't know what to do.